Please help me to reach 600 subscribers. I didn't notice him standing in the hallway, at least not until it was too late. Not until the words had already escaped me. Not until the door clicked behind him and he disappeared from my life, without uttering a single word. Hi, I'm Natalie. And this is the story of how I ruined the most meaningful relationship I've ever had, simply because I couldn't let go of my past. It began like any ordinary Saturday morning. My best friend Claire had stopped by for coffee and a little gossip. We were in the kitchen chatting about work, her new boyfriend, and eventually, Jake, my boyfriend of 2 years. Jake was, or maybe I should say was, the kind of man who makes the world seem gentler just by being in it. Calm, steady, compassionate. The type of person who remembers your coffee order, scratches your back without being asked, and folds your laundry just because he was already doing his. He was everything I should have wanted. But here's the ugly truth, I was still hung up on someone else. Adam. My ex. The man who shattered my heart 3 years ago. He cheated, ghosted, came back, and then vanished again. A chaotic, toxic mess. And for reasons I still can't fully explain, I had never truly let him go. Jake knew of Adam's existence, of course he did, but he didn't know that Adam was still lodged in my thoughts. That I sometimes scrolled through Adam's social media when I couldn't sleep. That I had a playlist full of songs reminding me of him. That I occasionally daydreamed about what life might have been if he had stayed. So, when Claire asked casually over coffee, "Do you think you'll marry Jake someday?" I laughed. Not out of humor, because the question hit too close to home. I took a sip of my coffee and said, stupidly, selfishly, "I don't think I'll ever love him the way I loved Adam." Claire froze. "Wait, what?" I shrugged. "Jake's wonderful. Really. But the fire I had with Adam, that intensity, that chaos, that can't be recreated. With Jake it's calm, but it's never been that consuming." What I didn't realize was that Jake had come home early that day. Quietly parked. Quietly walked inside. And apparently stood in the hallway just out of view long enough to hear everything. He didn't confront me. He didn't shout. He didn't demand an explanation. He just left. Completely. Silently. It wasn't until later that evening that I realized he'd been there. His keys were gone. His shoes, normally by the door, vanished. Even the croissants from our favorite bakery sat untouched on the passenger seat of his car. I called him immediately. Straight to voicemail. I texted. First casually, then desperately, "Hey, where are you? Can we talk? Please come home." No answer. Claire stayed with me that night, feeling awful even though it wasn't her fault. She kept saying maybe he hadn't heard everything, maybe he just stepped out for a while. But I knew the truth. The next morning, a text appeared. 5 words. That's all. I heard you. I'm done. No anger. No argument. No pleading. Just finality. I crumbled. Ate nothing. Slept even less. I replayed that moment in the kitchen endlessly, searching for a version of events where I hadn't said those words. But I did. And in that instant I believed them. Days crawled by. Jake didn't return. And I didn't blame him. But something unexpected happened once he was gone. The obsession with Adam, the late-night texts, impulsive road trips, fiery makeups, all of it suddenly seemed meaningless. What I'd thought of as passion had just been addiction. And Jake? Jake had been the real grounding love I pushed aside. A couple of weeks later, I ran into Jake's sister, Emily, at a bookstore. Awkward hugs. She wasn't sure whether to look at me with anger or pity. I told her I was sorry. That I missed him. That I had made a huge mistake. Then she said something that pierced me completely. "You know, he didn't need you to love him the way you loved Adam. He just needed you to love him fully." That hit harder than any accusation could. Because Jake had given me his full heart, and I had only offered scraps. I decided to write him a letter. Not a text. Not an email. A real, handwritten letter. I told him everything, that I used to think love had to feel wild and chaotic to be real, that I was wrong, and that in trying to protect myself, I had destroyed the one person who loved me the way I needed. I wrote that I didn't deserve a second chance, but if he ever wanted to talk, I'd be there. I never got a reply. Months later, I learned through mutual friends that Jake had moved to another city. Taken a new job at a nonprofit. Started dating someone else. Someone who makes him laugh, challenges him, loves him wholeheartedly. And me? I'm learning to live with the silence I caused. I go on dates but take my time. I go to therapy. I've stopped writing mental letters to Adam. I even deleted the playlist. But I kept Jake's letter, the one I sent too late. Not because I expect him to return, but as a reminder. Love isn't about drama or chaos. It's about showing up every single day and giving someone your whole heart. If there's one thing I hope you take from this, don't waste your love on someone who's gone. And don't wait until it's too late to fully appreciate the person right there, loving you the best way they know how. Because sometimes the deepest heartbreak isn't inflicted by someone else, it's the one we cause ourselves. Please help me to reach 600 subscribers.